So we're kicking off the webinar with our two speakers, Florian and Anna, already here. While people are dropping in, I will give everybody a minute to join. Today we'll be talking about AI in hiring and what kind of tools we're using, maybe that take over some of our tasks, but also that help us to brainstorm during all the hiring that we're doing. I always think recruitment is so many steps you need to follow to make one hire right. What are the parts that we can automate? What are the parts that are not able to automate? So it would be really exciting to hear from our speakers today, their thoughts, their experiences as well, both coming from totally different backgrounds. But I will leave it to them to introduce themselves in a second. And you might think, why is the third speaker? You've been seeing that correctly, because the third speaker, Martin, has unfortunately had to cancel the event because he's out with COVID at the moment, which is it's a shame, because also there were loads of in-depth insights there. But we'll do a follow-up session with him as well in there, or ask him some questions that we'll be posting on our blog as well. Nice, we already have 40 people that are joining us. Feel free to say hello in the chat, to introduce yourself quickly. And also throughout the event, feel free to use the chat to say hello to everyone and to interact with each other. And then also we have a separate Q&A box where you can post your questions. I will still give it a minute for some people that are just signing into Zoom and logging in, and then we can start speaking about AI. Oh my, the future of hiring with AI. Funny insight maybe to share. We got loads of good feedback on the title that we have, and it's actually an AI chat GPT that came up with the title as well when Gabi, our marketing manager, was bouncing off some ideas. So AI, oh my, it is a really funny way and attracted some attention, and it also comes from an AI. So we're already quite in inception with this. Oh, cool. So while people are dropping in, I'm going to kick off and explain a bit about what Talking Talent is and why we do these webinars. Many of you have already been here before, but there's also some people that are new, so welcome to those people. And then I also want to explain a bit more on what Accelerate is, the company behind Talking Talent as well. So we started out Talking Talent actually 5 years ago, because we realized that all our recruiters that are working on companies on a daily basis, they learn so much around how to hire talent, how to grow talent. And we wanted to not only have these conversations within our company, but we also wanted to give back to the community and actually build that community by giving them a place to talk about all kind of talent related topics, to bring speakers forward in webinars that are not only speaking about it, but actually are doing the hard work on a daily basis. It can really prevent you from making some of the mistakes they made, or even inspire you to grow your business in a way where talent is really at the core, which is still the most important part of a business to succeed. So that's how Talking Talent came to be. We do webinars, we have discussions and polls on our Talking Talent platform as well. If you haven't signed up yet, go to talkingtalent.com and sign up now to take part in these discussions as well. That is also all featured and also supported by Accelerate behind it. And Accelerate is a recruitment company based in Berlin, London, and Lisbon at the moment. We're helping all kinds of startups and scale-ups with getting their teams on board. We do that through three different services. So embedded full-cycle recruiters that join your team with our embedded service. We have a sourcing service called Connect, where we take care of like filling your pipelines with candidates as well. And we have also an executive search line where we hire the new leaders and the CEOs and even up to founders as well for startups. So in case you have any hiring needs, please come to myself and share your needs. We have been working with a few of the ventures that Anna elsewhere worked with. We're trying to work with Florian and get him on board as one of our clients, but he is also the founder of an AI tool, and he tries to get us on board as his client. So that's a nice way of how we're interacting here. But let's focus on the topic, and we're going to start with a quick icebreaker. Then we do the introduction of the speakers. We go into the panel with three questions and a bonus question. Then there's room for the Q&A. Please share any questions you have throughout the event on the Q&A channel, and then you can also upvote them. So then I can pick the most pending ones. And then in the end, we'll do some networking on our platform on Talking Talent as well. Cool. So As for the icebreaker, thanks so much for people that already introduced themselves. Please go to the chat now, open it, share your dream job in this chat, and also add your LinkedIn to connect. Really curious to find out what this 150 people that are now in the event had as a dream job when they grew up. Who is going to be the first one sharing this? It might take a second because, oh, astronaut, nice. Helicopter pilot, data scientist, florist, train driver. Really amazing to see that there's so many different jobs. Singer, fashion designer, snow leopard. That's also very interesting, right? As a kid, you can do anything. And it's cool that we looked into the crowd and we saw we have many head of people here, head of talents, founders, and so you see that all these people come from quite different backgrounds and quite different dreams that they had as a child. And I think a lot of it comes together actually in this people role, in this talent role, and also in this founder role as well. So it's cool to see that everybody sharing their dream job there. Also make sure to click on each other's LinkedIn and connect, right? Because that's what these events are for. Now, let's start with an introduction of the panelists. I'm gonna let them do that themselves because they best know where they come from and where they're going and also why they're here today. So Anna, over to you.
Thank you. I'm still fascinated with reading those dream jobs. And what went wrong? Because I would assume many of those don't have that job today. Anyhow, so my name is Anna. I'm based in Berlin. I have been working in HR for a very long time. It's technically 23 years now. I'm very old. This is a very good Zoom filter. I'm very old. I have always worked in and around startups and tech companies, somehow around HR and recruitment. So this is my spike technically as a professional. I currently work for a venture capital firm that's called HV Capital. It's a very German VC from its focus where the portfolio company resides. So most of the companies are German tech startups in early and late stages. Some of them are bespoke consumer companies. I spare you the names, but you might know some or have used them as consumers. There's many of them. My role is that I help all of those portfolio companies on anything talent. Given the last 2.5-ish years, you said the C word, Isabel, yourself, there's a lot of non-HR things that I'm also working with the teams on. So anything mental health, getting people out of war zones, refugees, and all those things is also what is part of my work. So I look at anything talent in startups very holistically. And I'm quite obsessed currently with ChatGPT, but I guess we'll get to that in a minute. Let Florian say something about himself first.
And Anna, what was your dream job then when you grew up? Was it what you're doing now or totally different?
So I misread the question. I thought you were asking about what my dream job is today. So I mean, obviously I have a dream job, but my dream job, if I would not work for HV Capital, of course, I would definitely like to run a culinary school for kids and teach them everything about healthy nutrition. Yes, I'm kind of doing this, but I only have one kid. So it's a very small culinary school at my house.
Private school.
Yeah, but full-time job, right, also. Cool. And then Florian, could you make an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm Florian, one of the co-founders and on paper, at least, CEO of Sortify, a Luxembourg-based company bringing natural language processing. So the big trend everybody's talking about since ChatGPT and human experience management or HR together, doing this now for 4.5 years. So quite happy about the development that is going on at the moment. Saves us a lot of time explaining what generative AI and natural language processing is. And now in the field for HR and mostly organizational development and consulting for more than 10 years. And besides Sortify, very often in Potsdam, in this context, I met Anna the first time to win her over as a guest lecturer. Since I'm there as a professor for digital HR and leadership. So that is bringing both worlds together. And in the end, with Sortify, we provide companies with solutions to find the right, not find, but select and develop the right people, detect maybe psychological aspects that you don't see in a classical assessment center, setting up high performance teams, analyzing organizational culture, everything was text-based and NLP driven.
Nice. Cool, exciting. With Florian, I already went super deep into the theory as well, and Anna has loads of examples from the ventures that she works with. So it's a nice combination of panelists here. So let's kick off with the first question. How can talent and people leaders use AI in their hiring? What first comes to mind, Anna?
Oh God, I think there's some practical things where specifically recruiters, I'm going to start there with recruiters as in like the beginning of the value chain is, we are not hired to be the best content creators or writing up good text, right? So this is and obviously ChatGPT, for example, to just use that as a placeholder for all those tools that will come up also. Writing up job descriptions, email templates. I can revise all the candidate experience in our ATS, for example, with the help of where it's deliberately generic also, right? Rejections don't have or should not be very specific sometimes. So I think those things where writing up long stuff, paragraphs even, is an obvious one. I think at the same time, I have tested it and I think that others will be starting to use it also for figuring out what specific jobs are and thereby also how I can select talent for it. Very baseline. I shouldn't rely on it fully, but for example, if I'm a recruiter and I need to hire my first DevOps person, I've never done this, I have no idea what DevOps is, probably my hiring manager will not give me a full briefing. I can use it to research more about a role and maybe also about qualifications and maybe also employers where this person might currently work or locations or thinking about selection criteria and questions I could use to filter talent. Those kind of things are probably also very useful in the day-to-day routines of a recruiter. So it's easier to expand your knowledge about different job families that you might be less familiar with. So it can kind of speed fast things that you have to research otherwise. I think it also might make sense for some other aspects, generally in HR, where we think about what are the good best practices or benchmarks. I would not recommend using them one-on-one. So for example, for sure, can you use ChatGPT to write up a diversity policy? Is this the best way to come up with a diversity policy? Probably not, but you can probably come up with a very good structure or outline of one. So you can say, what are things that I should consider? So sometimes the way that I use it, but also I think others will be using it too, is to sanity check the work that we're doing. We must not forget HR folks, for example, in startups, are mostly them the only expert in the room. So if I'm a VP people of a startup, there is no other VP people, and there's probably other people who don't care as much about people topics or are knowledgeable to sanity check my work products. So if I've come up with a good strategy, concept, piece of work, sometimes it makes sense to use this as a proxy for a peer that I would probably go to in person and ask, have I overlooked something? So for example, if you're driven by a FOMO, if you want to have another pair of eyes, sometimes it makes sense to probably poke around your ideas. Doesn't mean you should ship them and doesn't mean you should just copy paste it. We all shouldn't be lazy artists because of the existence of AI, but I think it's good to have someone as a sounding board, something as a sounding board.
Yeah, so you say it's a proxy, right, for the peer you would normally go to, because how would people and talent leaders do that like 10 years ago, for instance, when there were not these kind of tools or not Google, not optimized? Okay, yeah, so you replace like that conversation that you have with a mentor with the ChatGPT.
You shouldn't also be totally antisocial, not talk to people, right? You should also do this. But sometimes it's probably better to be prepared for those conversations. I mean, obviously in the last 23 years, I've lived without AI and I kind of did well, I think at some point. And I would use other people. I would just ask them, so like, is my concept shit? Is this something that I'm driven by FOMO that I've missed out on things? Have I overlooked something? Because when I ship it, I want to get it right. Some of those things that HR leaders work on are very sensitive to the organization. They do affect the people. You want to be sure that you've looked at it all from all angles. So obviously you want to show it to a lot of people that are involved from different perspectives. And ChatGPT would be probably one source to also look at it. HR leaders also build on a lot of things that are very universal across companies, teams, and industries, and even stages of companies. So obviously a lot of the things that we're doing are deliberately best practice approaches. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to be super creative with a lot of things. We just need to get them really, really right. But I'm going to stop you because I'm quite sure Florian wants to chip in.
Yeah, it's quite interesting your perspective because I expected something different. I would say if we ask the questions before ChatGPT, maybe it's different. Yeah, so that's what you said. Yeah, and it shows that it will be kind of more used, kind of sparings partner, etc. Yeah, and creating generative AI use. Yeah. What I see most is where it's used now is more on the, let's say, operational data processing. Yeah. We can screen CVs, we can source for talents, etc. using this pre-filter and all these points. Yeah. What I see the biggest advantage is using it in the sense of creating, generating, analyzing more experience data, because that is what very much matters when we want to get people on board and keep them on board, that they have a good experience with us. Yeah. And their AI has a big opportunity. So for example, we use our technology or provide companies with our technology to we say make active listen scalable. Yeah? So to give people the chance to express them in their own words. Yeah? Ask them, okay, what do you like about the job? What are your expectations? Also using it for analyzing, for example, a cultural fit, etc. So really then talking to people, because that is what we see, what in the end is the final filter. Yeah, so there's always in the hiring process an interview. Yeah, and if you for example could have more of let's say interactions with the candidate to get to know them better, give them the chance to express and get to know you better. So I think there's a huge chance of using AI in a way that is by now way more accepted than maybe 1 year ago. Yeah. So, and that is really what I see, and also in regards of how to find the right people. Yeah. So first of all, we have to know what we want to know about a person. Yeah. Then we have to find the right methods or the right questions, the right tools to figure this out. And then in the third part, not only asking them, but also let them show. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of gamification tools out there, or for example, especially when it comes to coding, to analyze, for example, the quality of the code someone is producing, etc. So that is kind of this multi-trade, multi-method approach, what we always refer to. So we want to know different things of a person. And sometimes if you have only one person taking care of HR, of recruiting, yeah, you can have an interview and maybe have another interview. But we want to have these different traits to be analyzed. And there are plenty options, plenty tools where AI can support us to really create this full picture of a person. Would you, for example, go for a full assessment center? Would you go for kind of tasks that a person has to do beforehand to analyze the quality, etc. And their AI, there's so many tools out there that really create this full picture of this candidate and makes the candidate experience also fun for the person.
Yeah. So would you then argue that? Sorry, Anna, please go.
No, I just wanted to add on this. And second, also what Florian also said is a lot of HR topics are decision making about people, whether we should hire, promote them, what kind of people we should look for, and all those things. So it starts also when we look at this from a diversity and inclusion angle, we are often logged into a specific type of person that we want to hire for something because it's the only type that we have seen, but we are blind to those that might be looking. We're overlooking talent as much as we overlook other things. I think for decision making, generally, I would be very optimistic, naively hopeful, choose whatever you feel works best for you, that we will be getting better at decision making because AI will give us the humility to understand that we don't know everything, where before AI, we would probably try to do it ourselves. We would rely on proxies like gut feel or half-wit things we would know about stuff. We would dare to make a decision because we are so confident. But now AI will probably give us a bit more of a humble approach to like, I really don't know that because that's so much smarter than I would have been. So I think decision-making generally could probably be upgraded if we smartly used AI. And we will talk about the risks that lie in this concept too. But I think generally it might help because when we are very honest, a lot of people are very poor decision makers, specifically about other people. But
And
we
that's a-
kind of never discuss this or admit this. We kind of
Yeah.
think that, yeah, I'm a manager. I know everything about my talent and my team. Of course, can I figure out who I should promote and whatnot?
And that is a good point, and I'm absolutely with you. We always say AI for human decision making. So in the end, the person or there should be a person taking the decision. And explain it then later on. And what we see, and that is what you mentioned, especially in HR or in recruiting, we see that a lot of people that are working in the field have, let's say, the understanding of themselves, or let's say are so confident that they can maybe assess or analyze other people better than others. So, and yes, there are tools out there, and yes, you can be kind of trained on this, but in the end, it's a human decision. And the question is, are we made for really objective decisions? And there I would say AI has a huge benefit where we can, let's say, ground our decisions more on objective data, on objective results, and come up with better decisions. So that's the idea.
Yeah, for me, a question that now constantly comes to mind, right, is also what Anna, you just said we need to use it smartly. And you said maybe we talk about the dangers. And Florian, you said like it's better in decision making, or at least a person that experience can work with these tools to make the decisions. But how do we use it smartly? And what are the downsides of this AI actually feeding your decision, which might also result in a wrong decision, right?
I think the obvious elephant in the room is that we shouldn't blindly trust it at the stage of development of what all those tools that are launched now to the public are. I would be very cautious because obviously I'm no expert, unlike Florian, on this topic, but obviously when it's trained on the wrong data set, it will always come up with it's like bullshit in, bullshit out. And we don't know how we can filter for it. As much as we, for example, can't filter for fake news really sometimes, if we just blindly trust it and forget that we have to come up with our own framework of decision making, that we have to be applying scrutiny on how we look at this, we have to verify, double check. The work that we have to do as grown-ups in our society is the work that can't be skipped. If you skip that piece, you will probably be creating a lot of pain to a lot of people when you use it in HR settings. For example, if I base a promotion or performance review or any of those things that touch a person at work on just a tool, as good as they will be, they have their limitations. And if I don't acknowledge that, I will probably also, I think it's a great tool, but it's merely a tool. It's not, I mean, we will probably talk about this tool. Will it subsidize specific jobs? It will be a tool that will be enabling me to do much more work more efficiently, but it will not be taking over my job as a whole and the responsibility I have when I act as an HR leader.
Yeah, when you said don't trust the AI tool, right? I think you can also take the question back. So why do we trust certain people to make a decision about that promotion, about that hire? Well,
I don't.
So how?
I trust no one. Right? No, but you can probably. But it's easier to poke around with the person, as in. Yeah, I read body language and mimicry. I know about the relationship the person has or the bias that the person has. I have all the story. Right. So it's obviously easier for me to spot when someone is biased, probably, and then maybe call it out if I can. It depends on the authority I have in an organization, of course, but I have the background and the context. I have the full picture. With AI, I don't know where, if there is a bias slightly ingrained, if I'm not cautious, I will overlook it and that will probably feed it.
But if you really look very deep into these biases, right, we can also not even trust ourselves. So where do you then start with your judgment, right? Or maybe, Anna, you have a different opinion in that.
No, I'm so biased to a lot of things, but I'm just very vocal about my biases. So you can ask me about my biases, I can give you a full list. I've done the soul searching to know where I am biased. And we are all biased in some effects. That's probably part of being a human being. But it's acting on them or being cognizant about them that makes us a different player when we act responsibly. We can't eliminate them, I feel personally, that we can't eliminate biases, but we can be aware of our individual biases and signatures when it comes to rating people, judging people, or having stereotypes about people. We can spot them and then reframe it, but we can't, I don't think it's possible really, unless you're really, really woke maybe, but most of the people will be not able to avoid themselves from being biased. the work that you can do is to figure out where you are biased.
Yeah, well, interesting. I'm now even thinking you need like soul searching for these AIs as well itself, right? And you need to make sure that they actually have these biases out of their system. And a woke AI is definitely something that's going to come up if you look at like the branding of these different AIs. Florian, I'm sure you have quite some stuff to say about this as well.
It's already a lot what we could add, but I would say especially what you mentioned, Anna. That's really a big point with these large language models or foundational language models like ChatGPT. Yeah, so they are trained on let's say very general knowledge that is out there. Yeah, so. And with every data that goes in, all the biases go in with this data. Yeah. So when we know that, for example, Wikipedia is written, 90% of Wikipedia is written by man. Yeah. And you know that most of these models are trained with a lot of Wikipedia stuff inside. You already have kind of bias who produced the data and what perspective on the world or topics or how people express are represented in this huge models. Yeah. And especially when it comes to a decision-making tool or a tool that supports you in your decision-making, that's also the reason why it's so hard to establish, for example, in the field of psychometrics or in people analytics tools that work also with the big corporates. Yeah, so when they send you to the labor council and you have to show, okay, that is exactly the criteria we are using, and they're kind of psychological criteria, diagnostic criteria that you have to fulfill, the classical ones have to fulfill. And we are also in this field of explainable AI. We have to explain how we come to decisions. Yeah, and then it comes to the point, okay, how do you train algorithms? Yeah, and there's the question. It starts with how do you differ in your model, for example, when analyzing text, when analyzing speech. In German, you have the different pronouns, male and female. Is it, for example, agnostic of this? Yeah. So does the algorithm immediately spot, okay, that's a woman answering the text question, or is it a man? Yeah. Or that we have the so-called inductive bias. Yeah. So that means that we have to understand, or that we have to understand better what data we fit in. If we, for example, say, okay, all the data we buy to train our algorithms is in line with the micro sensors, so that we have represented the same amount of female, male, diverse answer givers, age represented, etc. So then we assume our algorithm is kind of representing the demographics, for example, for Germany. Yeah, so that is already a bias that we have. Yeah, and the question is, okay, is it good or not? And on the other hand, it's one point that is quite clear: it's a machine. Yeah, and it's trained for a specific need. Yeah, and if you define the specific need that good, then it outperforms normally every human person, every human being. Yeah, because it can process so many information at the same time, way complex, etc. Yeah, and then you can come up with more objective results in this field. Yeah. So because it doesn't matter for the machine, yeah, if it's rainy or snowy or sunny outside, yeah, if the applicant, for example, wear a shirt with a cat and your cat died in the morning and you already have kind of ping in your head, or a candidate wears a perfume that reminds you of a person you like or you don't like or something. So we are not made for objective decisions, but there are these parts within this whole journey that we can make more objective by using technology. Yeah. So for example, if someone is male, female, how old someone is, that is not represented in the results that we provide in this psychological analysis of people. But if you go to a classical assessment center, there are 2 to 3 to 4 observers observing everything of you. Yeah. And I read this morning that EY is running a test doing interviews in the dark, so that you just listen to the voice of a person. Where I ask myself, okay, so why are you doing this? Yeah. So what is the benefit of this? And that is quite interesting. So we really have to understand what really matters to measure. Yeah, what are criteria that we, for example, bias criteria or bias risks that we have to reduce. Yeah, and that means that we have to have a very deep understanding of psychometrics, of assessments, of HR works within companies. Yeah, and then build the tools. And that's okay, it's possible. We play a bit around and then come up with results that are not explainable and that are not reliable, that are not valid, etc. So therefore, it makes sense to combine the technology with the expert knowledge. And then you can build tools that are super helpful on this.
I think we should also maybe discuss how candidates will use it, because that just what you just alluded to, Florian, like, should an interview maybe be in text only to have not even a specific idiom that people are using? Would I probably refer back to their nationality because of the way that they speak or the region they come from and all the biases that are intrinsically inherited in there? But I think we should also consider, as an HR leader or recruiter specifically, that talent has access to those tools too. So they can prepare better. They can probably come up with better CVs, application letters and whatnot. They can come up with better answers at interviews at some point because, as I said, more preparation and other things. So it can be used in a different aspect. And then we would have a hard time spotting where the AI was part of that really amazing answer that this person wrote, or the case study that was produced by the candidate, or it was actually the candidate producing the outcome. So I think that there will be more and more mechanisms, and some of them are already debated, where we can figure out how we can track it back to what was AI or what was this person. In any case, it's also helpful for the talent preparing for interviews like getting selected.
Yeah, I think that's a
absolutely
really interesting danger that you then mentioned there, right? It would mean that we have a certain benchmark that actually goes up because everybody has access to that AI, if it's like a free one offered to anyone. But then how do you make the differentiation? Would you say that, for instance, live performance become more important in these interviews? So you can prepare a case study, right? But it's about how you present it. It's about like how you deal with the questions, the stakeholders, because your AI tool is not going to sit with you in the interview, not yet, at least. There.
I mean, it's generally a truth that is also not discussed as much, that we hire mostly on interview skills. Mm-hmm. Because we hire people not on how good they are at the job that they might be doing, but how well they present, prepare, engage, relate, be rhetorically equipped to answer my questions, how structured their thinking is, how they make eye contact and all those things. So there's a lot of subconscious things happening that will trump over a good decision, because it's about the likability of the person or the confidence that I see, and we prescribe confidence to competence and all those things. And this is utterly wrong. And we should probably also be more cognizant about those things too. So there should be different selection processes that we have to come up in the future, where we see actual work results in live. And we also, by the way, have to rethink how we judge people, because obviously the CV is a dead item. The application letter has long gone before, hopefully, for most organizations these days. So we need to figure out how we can come up with good decision making. I think this is also where Florian, with you being an entrepreneur in that space, will come up with smarter solutions on how we figure out what we need in our companies, what skills we lack and want to hire for, and how we can figure out that the person that we are interviewing has these skills, and that it's a match also culturally, from the personality of the people that this person will work with closely, and a lot of things. We're still very outdated when it comes to more selection processes. And I hope that the zeitgeist with AI will help us to rethink those. But it will take some very disruptive and innovative HR leaders to probably do this specifically in large organizations.
Yeah, cool. What do you think, Florian?
Yeah, some already do, and be more disruptive. And that is what you said, Anna. That is, I think in HR has really the huge chance to make processes in this way more fair. That I said, this multi-trade, multi-method. Yeah, we want to know different things, and if you are very good in presenting yourself and being convincing in the interview, etc., so it increases your chance unlimited. Yeah. So and that is something where we absolutely believe that there is really a huge opportunity in using technology, using AI in this field to make really better decisions, to really figure out and maybe help the people also learn more about themselves on this journey. Yeah. And what we're discussing about the situation that we can select. Yeah. And lucky both of us that we are in decisions that we can select between candidates. Yeah. But there are a lot of companies that really fight for getting at least some candidates for different positions. Yeah? And then the question is, you cannot select that hard. Yeah. So how could AI help you when you maybe have not the perfect match, the perfect fit for this position? So talking about onboarding processes, talking about skill development, upskilling, reskilling, etc. And I think there's also a huge chance by using technology to east this direction.
Yeah, cool. I think that there's somebody in the chat also asking if you can share the EY experiment. So if you find that afterwards, we'll share that around
I will check
to
for the I would say if you Google for the headline, it was written EY is doing interviews in the
yeah, that sounds like a good clickbait headline. Yeah, and I think that brings it back to like giving the machine like one task, right? So they won't be going outside of what you actually tell them to do. So it's also this sort of broader aspect that we need to create. You can argue to a certain extent that people are also working like machines with our biases and the tests that we make up in our own head as well. But Florian, I don't really hear your opinion in this all, right? You described like how we can actually work with these AIs and how it can benefit like this joint decision making between people and AI as well. What are you really excited about on this part, and what do you also think is like a danger to that?
A danger, I would say, a risk is there when now having really these open tools out there that everyone can use. That it's used without kind of critical thinking. So what results are produced, what is it based on? And I'm very sometimes a bit surprised, for example, where we work with companies. Yeah, so the whole processes with GDPR, data protection, etc. So how long does it take to enter big corporates? Yeah, and then on the other hand, seeing companies now sending every kind of company data to ChatGPT to do something with it, yeah, without any concerns of data. And especially with the upcoming European AI Act, a use of AI in HR will be one of the hardest regulated parts. So you really have to think of the whole ethical use of AI, the whole GDPR conform use, explainable AI, etc. So that there will be a point where we definitely will see a shift, and that will also make it somehow harder, for example, for non-European companies to enter this market. So good for Anna and HV Capital with focus on European companies. I'm super excited the power that we see. And when we started with Sortify, we said, okay, we want to build a tool that is able to, that was a working title, yeah, and it's kind of part of our culture now that we say, okay, create SO3 environments. So is there a chance to kind of detect kind of traits that correlate, for example, with integrity or that with kind of toxic behavior? Because we see in a lot of positions in companies, we don't have the right people, we would say. And especially when it comes to, we now crunched the whole thing for Great Place to Work with almost 500,000 of survey results. And we see the point, what keeps people attracted in companies, what they really want, what makes them satisfied and committed is kind of really appreciation of their work. You have all the hygienic factors like salary, etc. Yeah, but if you want them to live this organizational citizenship, as it is called, yeah, so be a good citizen in the organization and go also for the extra mile, etc. You need these things, these super soft factors. And still number one, and it's not surprising, yeah, it's that people leave the companies because of their direct leaders, their direct managers. And that is where we very often see in promotion processes that there's the same stereotype, the same structure. There's this correlation between narcissism and leadership effectiveness and blah, blah, blah. And that is something what is super hard to detect and super hard to spot. Yeah? And when we first started, we did this for some investment companies because they said that it's big risk when we invest in people, in companies with this people in the management board. Yeah. So, and it was the first thing what we built for them, yeah. And then we saw, okay, it really works, yeah. When we got the first feedbacks, the first proof of concept, etc., and seeing what this technology is able to do, and that is what we see now with ChatGPT. Why is everyone so excited? You type something in and you get immediately a kind of smart result, yeah. And that is what fascinates people, and where I believe that we are really at a tipping point. It's kind of an iPhone moment where NLP and generative AI is really spreading, and everybody wants to be part of it, wants to use it. And a lot of companies are very good in this already. And the question is really do it in an ethical, correct way, do it in an explainable way, and do it in a way that it's really GDPR conform. Otherwise, companies will have a lot of stress with this.
Yeah. Nice. I really like this being available to the masses by it, right? So it also makes our understanding and also the way that we deal with AI a lot easier, that we now all play around with ChatGPT, just asking them stuff about our holidays or about the stuff we need to write, or maybe that job application that you're in as well. So that really raises the level of like how the masses know how to use it. So that also needs to raise the level of like what these companies and startups are offering. I think it's a great time to build an AI startup at the moment, and ChatGPT is definitely helping with that as well. We totally drifted off of the questions because I think we covered most of it as well. So how is AI making our judgment worse because of bias? I think we did cover that question in two of your answers already. So I would love to jump to like this last question, and then also have some room left for the Q&A. And that is, when will AI be sort of standardized in the hiring processes, meaning that it's common sense, and that to use it in your hiring process? What would these what would this adaptation period be like? Is that years? Is that months that we're talking about? And how would you see this evolvement going? Maybe Anna, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I would hope it starts the adoption is quite a short one, because as we already alluded to, I think there's a lot of things that we can build on specifically in HR, obviously also in other functions in other companies. And obviously if we have the skills in-house to use them smartly, to select them smartly, to make sure that the applications run the way that we want them to run and other things. So given that we are conscious buyers and decision makers when it comes to implementing them and selecting them, and that the quality of AI is what we want them to be, I think it is, I would be flabbergasted if I don't see a lot of companies using it, because it just makes so much sense. As I said, it takes out some human error in some decisions that are very crucial. And if that is really doable, and we can trust the AI that it's what it should be doing, then yes, I don't think that it should be not used. Because also I think that people will understand where an AI created fairness in a process, because the talent will understand where AI was part of a decision, and thereby also trust more in those systems, because they know it's not my individual relationship with my boss that made me get the promotion. It was a factual decision based on my performance, and so is every one of my peers treated. So I think talent will come to appreciate the application, the smart, and as said, the smart and wise application of AI, because it will take out that human error, that bad manager moment, that Zoom call gone bad, all those things will probably a bit more mitigated at some point where it's really existential. So maybe talent will choose employers or corporates where they see there's a smart use of AI and thereby more fairness. We all are social animals that we Florian said it, we love affirmation, we need social connection. Fairness is also a very core human need. We want to be treated fairly, and we also kind of want people around us to be treated fairly, most of us at least. So I think if we are in a company where fairness is a prime core value and thereby AI is used at the right moments, it will help me go that way and not go to the company where you have to be a white male confident man from a specific university to progress.
Yeah.
Just
Depending
making
on
up
how the AI
examples
is-
here. I'm not saying.
Yeah, just
making
depending on how the AI is trained as well, right? Because then you go also back in those biases. Because I think it's totally right, and I really like the idea that you can say it's
all that given.
It makes you look good when you actually have a tool like that. And I think this adaptation to the standardization of AI in processes can actually go a bit quicker with the current market situation as well, right? Companies doing layoffs, companies hiring again. We need to be very resourceful in our TA functions, because these are the functions that are first laid off and also first hired again when everything goes well. And if we can not replace these jobs, but at least make the jobs more impactful and efficient, and actually raise the quality of talent that we hire through implementing those tools, then you can see that the current market is also driving that. Florian, what is your take on the adaptation of this?
First, I hope and I'm convinced that it will be fast. So also from our experience, if a company wants to use this technology, no matter what size it is, even if it's a DAX company, it can be super fast. Normally, it takes ages to go through all these processes, etc. But if they want something in place, then all the companies can be fast. So that makes me very optimistic. And also, all the experience we gained using this technology, getting the feedback, okay, that delivered or that gave us information, insights we didn't check before, or additional information. And also from the candidate side, saying, hey, there was kind of fun for me to do it, and also that I had a kind of added value. And I think that is when we talk about hiring processes, we have to make it also attractive for candidates to apply. And by use of this technology, so it's on also super cost efficient to give kind of benefits during a process. For example, one of our clients it's a Swiss bank. They say, okay, everybody who's applying for a traineeship will get a full analysis, a personality analysis, plus a debriefing, so to be attractive for talents, and you see how the number of candidates increased, because people are start talking about it, so, and that is really where I see there's a huge chance, also on a cost efficient side, to create a really experience for candidates. And on the same side, when we talk about standardization, we are in HR, and in HR there is a lot of, especially in German, it's the whole law system around HR. It's you always try to avoid making mistakes, in HR, because there are, let's say, a lot of gray zones, what to do, what not to do, etc. And there we see, I'm a bit afraid about hyper-regulation in this field. On the other side, I would say that really leads to some providers that really deliver the quality that really help companies later on. So
what do you mean with hyper-regulation?
Yeah, so as said, there will be the EU AI Act. We're discussing that beside medicine, health, then we have finance, we have law, and also HR is one of the big pillars, where we have to be very, there's this different risk categories, so where AI will be kind of declared as high risk or medium risk, low risk, etc. And because of the impact, later on. And there I see the way for a lot of companies super hard when we see, for example, in assessing or working with personal data. That is, it's not that easy, to really build a tool that fulfills all the criteria and makes use of the power of this technology. Yeah, so that is something where I see it can be a challenge. On the other hand, if you are in this field and be prepared, then it might be an unfair disadvantage, how you would say.
I would also
do you
probably
think-
just to chip in. Sorry, I think there's a latency. Just quickly, I think we should be very transparent when we use AI for human decision support.
Yep.
That we flag this to the people involved, as in this job ad has been pre-written by AI because we want to make sure that we get it right, or this rejection letter has been written by AI, thereby it's generic, but this is the best way we have done it. Those kind of things, I think we should be very outspoken where we use AI so people understand that there is or the ambition to be very fair in some processes, but it's probably also not perfect.
Yeah, is the law around also privacy and stuff, is it protecting us or holding us back? You would say, Florian. I know you.
So it's the law is not in place now, yeah, but there is this very long document written, and also we see it also in the US that they have this kind of ethical AI use. So the tendency also goes in this way. If you're interested, a little add on this. Tomorrow we will have a session, especially on this whole ChatGPT and also regulation topics. Yeah. And there will be, I would say, that's a discussion. Yeah, regulation normally leads to slow down innovation. Yeah. On the other hand, it makes innovation sometimes a bit more stable and robust. Yeah. We see it now in the fintech and the whole crypto industry, where we have this whole regulation going on. Yeah, and yeah. Some will not survive and others will fit in, and then the market is bigger for them. Yeah. So to be clear, I'm not a fan of regulation. We should let's say create more a general mindset or general values like making ethical, correct use of these technologies. So that's the whole redlining, digital redlining. So you live in this neighborhood, you are screened, and then you don't get the credit for buying a house or something like this. Yeah, that's what we see in the US at the moment. And the big discrimination, and that is an ethical, not correct way to use this technology. Yeah, and that is, I would say, the most important, as Anna said. Yeah, being transparent on what is done with your data. Why do we analyze you, for example, with this tool? Yeah. And also share the results with the candidates afterwards, that the person has kind of idea, okay, what is the outcome of what I did here? So that is kind of an ethical, correct behavior that is somehow also reflected in different laws already. But it's kind of your attitude. Yeah. So how do you want to develop this technology?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. There's so many forces and so many directions we can go in with this conversation. I want to use a few of the Q&As as well to guide it to certain topics. Akil is asking, how can a company start having AI introduced in their current recruitment process? So where, after all this talk also and all these tools are there, where do you start with using it? What is some personal advice that you would give?
Oh God, I think this could be so manifold. Depends on what your recruiting process is, because there's different recruiting processes. I always try to map them out by, do you have a volume recruiting thing going on where you have a lot of jobs or maybe a lot of openings and you need to act really low touch with a lot of talent? Or do you have very complex, low on volume, but high on complexity jobs? Because I think there's different applications. For example, if you are more in the realm of, I just have a lot of jobs that I need to fill and most of the talent looks a bit similar, thereby obviously sifting through them smartly with knocking them out because of some selection criteria and tools that I have come up with that I've obviously verified and checked for, because obviously AI, as it's new, a lot of backed actors in the field too, and be cognizant about where you want to be. It's probably helpful, checking for specific skills that are ultimately very much needed. In the complexity world where, let's say the data scientist, I'm only hiring this once in every couple of years. I have no idea what the data scientist looks like. how I can right size a talent, how I can assess a talent in front of me, even obviously doing the research and building out skills to be a better decision maker is something that I would use. So I think it's different approaches.
Yeah.
As I said, but there's a lot
really
of, I mean, there's no limitations to human stupidity. So you probably should really figure out, as Florian rightfully said, is what am I trying to achieve? And reverse engineer what you want to get and figure out if AI can be part of that process and where it should sit.
Yeah, do you have done some, because I like that approach a lot. First, know what your problem is before you're gonna implement a solution like that, right? And you mentioned ChatGPT as your buddy to brainstorm with and to like maybe
it's my best friend,
help you on off days. Yes, dear ChatGPT. I think that's the way you write to it, right? And what are other tools you would recommend? Do you have any AI tools that you're using in recruiting, or see your ventures using in recruiting?
I do think that there are some tools who probably have parts of it, but I don't think that until ChatGPT has arrived and had all this media attention and everyone's like, oh, it's finally there. Because I was feeling that a lot of people were kind of waiting for it, but there were tools that have, I mean, AI is a very generic term because you can label all kinds of products that include AI. There are some ATS tools already and have been on the market where parts of it was presumably AI, but no one was really verified it. So some ATS tools are very smart and maybe also AI driven to some extent. I think that what also Florian said and resonated were, it's this iPhone moment now. I think this is where the infancy is done and the maturity will arrive. The adolescence in between where it's a bit painful, but there is a new era that we enter where it's fully AI driven to some extent and not like pieces of it will be done with some AI.
Nice. Well, I like it. And maybe to move on to the next question, I think Florian, you touched on it already, but I really like the question. How can we attract passive candidates with AI? You mentioned like filtering out candidates and finding candidates, right? So how can AI be helpful in attracting passive candidates? Many recruiters are very curious about this answer.
The point is, I would say the problem that we solve is not solved by the AI. So the question is, why don't people not applying for this job? I would say you have to solve this problem first. To make the job also attractive to apply for. Yeah. So if no one applies for a job, that's a sign. Yeah. So and yes, you can.
AI can maybe
there are plenty
with
companies.
Getting the job to the right person.
I'm not sure.
I'd say there's two use cases that are so obvious. One is, where is the talent that I need? And like, for example, transferable skills. So if you're a direct search active sourcing department in your recruitment, if you're sourcing talent on, for example, LinkedIn's so wide and far, you can probably not know where to start, but AI can probably help you direct to the right side of the talent, right? So what employers employ people that can do this in my geography, or what titles has a person that is doing this, or what transferable skills could I consider to fill a role where I probably look at the non-obvious talent. So I think there are some ways, no, Florian?
Yeah, so that's, I would say that is the point when you are, or when you reach the point, no one is applying for a job. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. There are a lot of companies out there where, let's say, HR is done, let's say, on the way, or someone is doing job postings, AI, HR, etc. Yeah. But I'm still convinced that a lot of jobs are permanent open, yeah, and you could rephrase them. You could say we are looking for other talents, etc. In the end, it's I would say then more a problem of the company itself. Yeah. So on the other hand, yes, you can use it for sourcing, for filtering, etc., and reach out to candidates. Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, if you're an employer that's very unattractive, or your job's just shit, obviously that won't help. Just knowing that there would be technically talent that could do the job, but no one's. But maybe it's also figuring out how you can rewrite your employer branding or think about what people say about you.
Absolutely.
It's Kununu on steroids.
I like that, Florian. You called it augmented intelligence once for recruiters as well. So still need to do the job, but it's going to make it a lot easier. And you're going to see a lot more on like on insights, but also on like automating parts of your role there. And I think that's also really an insight in how the role of the recruiter will change. We have 20 questions in this Q&A. I will definitely be copying these questions and furtherly discuss that on our platform. I will try to get a little bit more time from Florian and Anna to answer a few of these pending questions, and they will be shared on talkingtalent.com. For now, I want to thank everybody for joining. Make sure to keep an eye on the webinars that we're having coming up as well, and make sure to join into talkingtalent.com to keep on discussing this topic, because we can go on for hours. Thank you so much, Florian. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing all your thoughts and your experiences as well. Really great to hear your insights. And yeah, hopefully we can soon do this again. Thanks.